So any questions on this? Okay, we're more than halfway through this thing. Page 4, we have special requirements, and here we're talking about certifications. So I can use the paramedics again. Someone who's working in that field requires certification, I would think either as an EMT or a paramedic, maybe all paramedics, I don't know how you guys run in Livingston County. But there is a certification required. If I'm in the building department, licensure certifications required as a building official. The various trades inspectors also have to be certified in their respective areas of expertise. As you go around the county, there are a number of departments and jobs within those departments that require some kind of certification. That might be mandatory by the state, or the certification might be mandated by the county. Some counties require certification as a municipal clerk, for example, for the deputy clerks. So that's certainly not a state requirement, but it is a requirement of the particular county. If there are any of those associated with your job, please list it out under Section 5 on the top of page 4. That's where it belongs. From an educational perspective, that's additional education. It's additional complexity for your position. From a job description perspective, we really need to add that and have it in there. It might already be on your existing job description. A lot of them will be. I don't know that they all will be. So give it a look and give me your best feedback. Yes?
So does it have to be a legal requirement?
Yes. Give me an example.
Certified health education specialist.
Certified health education specialist is not a department requirement?
It's on my job description, but you don't have to have it.
It's desirable.
Okay.
If you have a desirable listed on your job description, or you have a desirable that isn't listed on your job description, why don't you list it anyway? We can look at those and decide if there are some that should be included on the job descriptions. Thank you. Okay, Section 6 is supervisory responsibility. Here I'm just looking for an accounting of who you might supervise in your job, whether you're managing people, whether you're supervising people, or whether you're leading people, similar to what a working supervisor would do. There are situations where people are lead workers, but they don't have any supervisory responsibility. We want to make a cutoff between those people who are informal leaders. That's going to show up in the job duties. And those people who actually have some specified formal supervisory responsibility. So if you have the latter, I want to know about it. That's something that, as I mentioned, is important for our point factoring process and in certainly valuing your job at the right level. The first thing you'll want to list is the titles of any people that you supervise, and then the number. And you'll see on the form on page 4, it asks for numbers supervised directly or indirectly. Indirectly means if you are a department head, for example, and you have 3 or 4 managers underneath you that report to you, those would be your direct contacts. So that particular director, if he had 4, would have 4 direct supervisory relationships. Indirectly, that department head would have everyone else who was in the department. So for some of you, it would only be one or the other. It would only be directly. For those upper echelon managers, it would be both indirect and direct supervision extended. Also, if you would, the number of people who are full-time that you supervise or manage and the number who are part-time. So we'll get a full accounting of it. Any questions on that? No? Okay. On the bottom of page 4, section 7, this is something that I asked for because it just helps me to get a fuller picture of your jobs, to understand your jobs better. Each one of you in county government, as you go through your day-to-day job responsibilities, you have a lot of interactions with other agencies, whether it be the state, private agencies, or internal departments that you interact with. If you're in the courts, you're going to be interacting with the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department. If you're in the finance or personnel departments, you're going to be interacting with all of the departments on a very regular basis. Everybody in their particular job has more or less contacts that you experience. And what I'm asking for here is that you take a minute and think about your job and list out for me what you consider to be the more important contacts in your job. And again, this might be your responsibility to interact with a state agency, exchanging information, filing reports, updating particular databases. It might be your responsibility to interact with the public. It might be your responsibility to interact with clients for social services agencies. It could be a whole host of both internal and external contacts. But what I'm looking for here is just the laundry list. If you could provide me with your own thoughts on who the most important interactions are. From my perspective, as I go through these job questionnaires, reviewing 200 of them, it gives me just a whole additional flavor for the position. So it's important to me, and I'd appreciate it if you'd put a little work into that one. A lot of times as well, when we end up finalizing the different job duties for particular jobs, I will go back to this section and look at what someone has provided me with, and it gives me some good information to maybe add some job duties that weren't listed. So it's an important part of the questionnaire. Any questions about this one? That's great, because I know that's probably the hardest to understand, but it's the most useful for me. If we go to page 5, we have at the top work-related stress and pressures. As I told the other groups, there's only 4 lines provided here, but if you use the electronic program, it will keep writing on indefinitely. So if you have thoughts that you want to share, this is your chance to vent. More seriously, there are jobs that stress is a compensable factor in the pay for the positions. If you're working in the courts, if you're working in the prosecutor's office, if you're working darn near anywhere, but you could probably give me examples, and you're under deadlines and you have caseload backed up, and you have responsibilities that have to be done yesterday, you're probably operating under a lot of pressure. And in some of those cases, that's kind of factored into the pay for the position when you start looking at the job more broadly in the marketplace. So feel free to give me whatever input you care to there, and if you just want to get something off your mind, do that as well. Section 9 is technology, and more and more technology is a part of each one of your jobs. And some of the past studies that have been done, I don't know about the 2004 study, but I do know the one that was done in the 90s before that, the point factor plan did not have a technology factor associated with it. The new plan that we will use does. So there will be points awarded certainly for technological requirements of the position. So what I would like you to do, if you would, is just to give me a broad-based overview of what kinds of technology you use. And that starts out at the top with just basic office equipment, which I'm assuming everyone uses. Goes down through some of the Microsoft Suite applications that I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, use, such as word processing and spreadsheets. I imagine the majority of you enter data into a database, but some of you are also into data development, or I should say database development, possibly generation of crystal reports, that sort of thing. And there's space there to check that as well. I'll be able to identify, I think, that additional technological responsibility when I go through job duties. But this gives us a good summary. There's people who are actively involved in GIS development, audio-visual equipment certainly as well, financial application use. Just check those, if you would, if they're applicable to your job. And there are cases as well where jobs might have specialized equipment that is not typically thought of as computer technology. I gave the example earlier of we work with water and sewer utilities. They use TV equipment for viewing underground lines. There's a host of informational equipment that they use to really further their work efforts. Some of that would not show up if you were looking simply at computer applications. So if there is some sort of specialized equipment that you use that has required a lot of technical training, please feel free to indicate what that is as well. There's a space here to do that.